welcome to the Big Wealth Podcast. I am super excited, and I'm not going to lie, I am fangirling out here just a little bit. We have two amazing guests on the show today. We have Sarah and Annette, who host their own podcast, Thanks for Visiting, which is focused on short-term rentals. And as you guys know, we are always talking about assets that are going to produce income. And there have been so many times as we've been talking that the answer we get back is, that sounds great. I'd love to do that, but how?
What's
so
step
we figured
one?
we would track down the experts and bring them to you so that we can ask all the questions you ask us and figure out the best ways to streamline operations, maximize profitability, but do it in a way that is really all about the experience of the guest. And I think that is just so cool because we spend so much time talking about philosophies of abundance versus scarcity, and we hate win-lose situations that are only about the bottom line. We like win-win situations where everybody feels good after the experience. So we're just delighted to have you gals on board with us today.
Thank you. We are so excited to be here.
We are pumped to share all of our knowledge. And so hopefully your listeners, if they're not driving, have paper and pen out ready, and we're ready to just dig in.
Awesome. Well, so I think the very first question that people have when they are thinking about short-term rentals is, how do you know this is the one you should buy?
Yeah. What's the metric?
Well, actually, we just got back from a conference. Okay. And it's called the Short-Term Rental Wealth Conference. And they had these little like bands that they gave away in the swag bags.
Where is mine?
Yeah. Nettie,
I was supposed to wear it every day.
she's not, but it says 30% cash on cash returns. So, but we have a caveat to that. That's great and all. And like having a number and like some math to do to help you figure out if it's a deal that is worth digging into. But we're big believers in, especially with short-term rentals, it has to work for you and your goals, because 30% cash on cash, sure, that's fantastic. But what if your goal is to have a vacation rental that pays for itself, that you and your family can visit?
That's really for you, right?
It's really for you. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Or maybe we're in an area that appreciation is actually awesome. And so I'm just trying to get here for like long-term wealth. And so like that cash on cash isn't as big of a factor for me.
Right.
So we like to say that the rental really has to fit your brand and has to fit what your goals are.
Yeah, it has to be in alignment. Short-term rentals are a long-term play for us.
Oh, I like that,
because there's a large upfront financial investment and an emotional, and there's a lot of labor behind it. So we just want to advise everybody, actually, maybe that's the first thing, is that this is a long-term play. With the short-term, like only having the house listed as a short-term rental, Airbnb, Vrbo, anything like that for, under 24 months, the numbers really, I don't know how those numbers ever really make sense when you're purchasing a full home of furniture and linens, especially how we're going to guide you to make sure that you're getting that maximum nightly rate. We would not be doing any of the listeners any service at all if we did not tell them that this needs to be a longer term play for you, for the numbers to work out as well as we want them to work out for you.
So define longer term though. So 24 months is not long term.
No.
What does long term look like?
Yeah. So number one, I think another easy way to figure this out too is when you're doing your deal analysis for a short-term rental, we always use long-term rental numbers to do our deal analysis. We won't use short-term rental numbers. That way you have some exit strategies, right? Like let's say regulations change in your area. Regulations are a huge component to buying a short-term rental these days. So you better be ready to pivot, and you don't want to be caught, underwater. So using long-term numbers is a great way to do that. When Annette and I say long-term, I mean, unless, someone's, everything's always for sale. So let's be clear, but unless someone knocks on our door with a great offer, I mean, we plan to have these until, I don't know.
Yeah. We want
15, 20
we want to grow a whole portfolio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple of decades.
Yeah.
So, but I will tell you, there's a lot of chatter out there. There's a lot of like short-term wealth gurus that are like, hey, make 6 figures in 12 months and 18 months. We just want to advise you that it is definitely a longer term play. We've been doing this for many, many years. And honestly, the the wealth grows the longer you're in it. You're going to get those repeat guests. You're going to,
Right.
you're going to get your systems and operations dialed in. And so we know that it doesn't take a couple of years to get going. I mean, you're going to get bookings immediately, but man, when you can dial things in,
That's the sweet spot.
the dollars and cents start to roll
Well,
in.
and you have people that show up that you don't have to go work for again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
let's talk about what happens in the first year that you have a vacation rental. There's heavy outlay on the front end. What are I would want to know, what are the biggest mistakes that you see people making when they say, oh, I'm going to go the vacation rental route, and they jump right in and then they just go, oh my gosh, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Where do you see them going wrong?
My biggest tip, or where I see them going wrong, is I'm thinking it's passive income, because there's a lot of gurus also talking about it as being passive income. Unless you offset this to a management company and you include that in your numbers when you're doing your deal analysis. And even then, you have to be the CEO of your own business. And you are, yes, it's an income producing asset, but you are starting a hospitality business, and so thinking it's this passive situation, you are open, unless you choose not to be, which is going to affect your numbers. You are open 365 days a year,
24/7.
Yeah, 24/7
For sure.
So that's my biggest tip.
And so from that standpoint, and I was thinking about that, a lot of the people that we talk to, they're like Mary said at the very beginning, yeah, man, we want one of those. Make that happen. Do that thing you like. Do that thing I like. And so they want to go get into that, but they have like regular gigs. I mean, they've got day jobs, they've got kids, they've got really hectic lives. And so at what point do you say, look, you're not ready for this, or this has got to be passive, but you're going to have to lose some margin because you really need property management, or, that you've maybe this isn't totally passive for you?
There's so much into this question. Number
Yeah,
one, I will say most people that we know, I will be honest, that I do not know one person that started in a short-term rental as their full-time gig. I don't know anybody that started. It was like, hey, we have a second home. We got another property, and everyone's an accidental host. So I want to encourage everyone. I really don't know anybody that like sat down one day and was like, I'm changing careers. I'm going to be a short-term rental host. And they flipped the switch like that. So I do want to encourage everyone that it is absolutely possible. And especially if you start slow and like one property at a time, it's definitely doable. But our biggest tip is wherever it is, you need to be building your team like before you even welcome your first guest. And a team can be, someone across the street that has an extra set of keys, who does plumbing, HVAC in the area. We need you to start being prepared with some boots on the ground that can help you. And even if it's in your own town, you still need to be starting your plan B, plan C.
But I will say that when we were getting started, I mean, when I had my first short-term rental, I was working full-time in a hotel and auditioning, because I was also an actor at the time. And then I moved markets and I started the short-term rentals again. And I was also a full-time interior designer and stager. So, you can do this and do that. Absolutely. And there are systems and tech that, listen, vacation rentals have been around for a really long time. This is not a new concept, but Airbnb has made it this household name and made it accessible to truly anybody. And so now we're having to like pick and choose, like, what did the old vacation rental companies do that was really good? And then how can we leverage tech to help us also be full-time parents or full-time, whatever we are full-time, but knowing that when those days when you used to come home at 5 o'clock and you were done, your guest is checking in at 4 o'clock, and who knows, what could happen. The fridge goes down, the whatever, the neighbors don't like
the code you gave me doesn't work. How do I get into the house?
Yes. So just, are you ready for that? You know what I mean? And does that excite you, or does that sound daunting? And then you don't have to leverage it or give the entire operations to a property manager. That's the cool thing too with tech.
Oh, you can a la carte it.
You can a la carte it.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about that. What type of investment should someone be looking at just in terms of tech? I know we spend a lot of times talking about sites like AirDNA or All the Rooms or MashVisor. And I know there's a bunch of other ones out there that help you kind of figure out what's going on if you don't want to try and parse through the information yourself. But there are all kinds of other technologies for optimizing your rent and, optimizing your cleaning. So what kind of outlay should someone be expecting and building into their analysis just on the tech side?
Yeah, it's a tricky question too, because Annette and I fully believe in, I mean, simplifying it to its core. Your first cleaning, you should do yourself so that you understand how your property, how it needs to be turned over. So when you hire a cleaning team,
I
you
just
can-
threw up a little in my mouth. I
No,
just want you to
yeah,
know that.
yeah, no, and you
Having to
and you know
clean?
what? That's good.
No, you got to do
Because then
it.
you know the kind of person you are. But how are you going to teach? You know, what I mean, you could just hire a cleaning company and say like, have at it. But then they're going to develop your brand for you. Do you want that to happen?
Right.
Do you like the way they make the beds? Do you like the way they put the dishes away? I mean, hopefully you're getting into this to be really good community members and welcoming guests. They're going to be great guests, but also having a property that's going to last a long time. You invested a lot. And so if you have these, SOPs in place, it's gonna go better down the line. So that just simplifying it, like clean it once yourself, right? And like what was hard,
Right.
what wasn't hard? Does the washing machine actually hold all your sheets? Does it actually do all your
Oh
laundry?
yeah, it took 10 hours to do the laundry, and the turnover is
Okay.
supposed to take 4.
There's a problem. And so now you have to add laundry service into your numbers, right? And then as you go, as you do it manually, what do you want to offset? If you want to have your locks automatically generate a code and send it to guests, okay, there's a fee for that. You know what I mean? And so it's a monthly recurring fee. Maybe you don't mind doing the codes because you have one. And so you do that manually, so you don't need that. But maybe you want to do some automated messaging, which you can do that through some of these platforms like Airbnb. But maybe you want to leverage more than one platform. Maybe you want to be on Vrbo and Airbnb and Booking.com. Okay, now we need a channel manager, and that's going to cost money. So, I would say if you factored into your numbers, I don't know, for one property, maybe $25 to $50 extra a month, to help you
Just for the technology.
just for the
Yeah,
tech.
just for the tech.
I would say
Okay.
that's
Which
probably
isn't
about
bad.
right.
And we encourage just starting one at a time. We have so many hosts in our community. They'll get all the tech and then they won't set any of it up all the way.
'Cause it's
And so
overwhelming.
they're kind of limping around and not utilizing the technology.
Yeah,
But
but-
one of those main things I do want to, when we're talking about this deal analysis, that something huge that we want to let everybody know, there's a big part of what Sarah and I educate on, is the furnishings and making sure that budget for furnishing is, you give yourself that's where you're going to pull in your clients. Who's your
Right.
ideal client? Who's your ideal
Right.
guest? You do not want to skimp on these furnishings. Your average daily rate is going to be in direct correlation to the experience that you are providing for your guest. And so I think most listeners, we can talk, it's easier just to talk about like hotel chains. You know what you're going to get at a
Right.
Motel 6 versus a Ritz-Carlton, and their
Right.
nightly rates are in direct
Reflected.
correlation to the experience. And so we want to encourage you, you don't always have to have the biggest house with the most bedrooms and the most bathrooms to bring in the most money. You
Right.
can, you just need to have the best place for that person to stay in your location. And that design is super important.
And this isn't just to ladies who really care about, who love staying in a Four Seasons, because we do, but it is coming from proof. I mean, Airbnb just changed their whole search functionality. I mean, now it's like literally there's a category that's OMG. There's a category that is design. There is category that is A-frame, and so unless you start with just your dates, then they'll take you to like the general search. But gone are the days of just, giving some sheets on your couch, or even gone are the days truly of just getting all the basic stuff from IKEA and thinking that you're going to stand out next to your neighbor who has wallpaper and light fixtures and neon signs and
a coffee bar that is like dreamy every morning. So we just want to make sure that you're padding enough room in your budget. You don't want to overextend yourself on the cost of the home and then, not be, you're going to have some sleeping bags on the floor. So we really want you to watch out for that. And again, we would not be doing our jobs if we did not say, we know that if you would spend less on the home, overall, whatever you have budgeted,
Right.
and lean more into that design, you're going to get that back. And we know it hurts in the beginning because it's like
very
all the money is
front-loaded.
going out.
Right.
And so we're going to warn you of that too. Like it's going to sting because no one's checked in, the cash register isn't coming the other way yet, but once it does, it'll be worth it to make that initial upfront investment.
So the
That's every
inflatable
investment.
furniture.
Oh, no inflatable furniture.
So that the stuff that I have in my Amazon shopping cart for inflatable furniture, I should
You
just
know
put
what?
that.
No.
Well, I guess the kiddo room maybe.
Or if it was like, if that's the shtick of your like property, it might work. You might just have to be ready to like replace it often. But there's here, I want to encourage everyone too, whatever your crazy idea is, it could work potentially.
There's probably a market for
if it's on theme, just think about, who your customer is. And there could be some, we, like Sarah said, we were at that conference last week and they were showing a children's bedroom that had they'd brought like the outdoor furniture or the outdoor, like a jungle gym with a slide inside.
Oh yeah.
And they were like, their occupancy is through the roof and they're charging a couple $100 more per night than any other house in that area because they have these show-stopping elements inside their home. So
yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, for me, like even just making sure A, there's a king size bed and B, it's a good quality mattress. Like I will come back if it has both of those things. But when you go stay somewhere and it's obvious that this was like the hand-me-down bed from their grandparents, like it's all lumpy. I'm like, I can't
You
stay
have
here
choices
again.
these days, Mama. You don't have to stay there anymore.
Yeah,
That's right.
for sure.
I love that. So what if, you're not a professional stager, interior designer like you? How do you do that?
So funny that you asked that question. Exactly a month before we're about to speak at RESACon, which is the Real Estate Staging Association. These designers are hungry to help you design your short-term rental. So find a local interior designer, a local stager. I guarantee you, if they haven't already designed a short-term rental, they want to.
They want that part of their portfolio.
Yes, it's crazy creative and it kind of breaks them from their, every day. And so I mean, that's an easy question. Just tap into a local interior designer or even someone who offers e-design. They could design it for you virtually, send you the links to buy all the things, and then you do it yourself. So there's a lot of creative.
How much should you expect to pay for a service like that?
That's a great question.
It probably depends on the marketplace too.
Yes, it depends on the size of your home.
Right.
Are they starting from scratch? Do they have some stuff to work with? It depends also absolutely on the location and, where you are located and what average price are. Yeah. And your designer.
If your designer's a rock star and you will have a short-term rental, like nothing you've ever seen. I mean, get ready to pay $100, $150, $200 an hour, but it'll absolutely be worth it. And then there's discount virtual design companies too, where the cost per hour is much, much less than that.
I want to I don't know if I want to interject here and just let everybody know too. Sarah and I are in Columbus, Ohio. We are not in a vacation rental or a vacation area at all.
Hotspot.
And so, right. I want to encourage all the listeners too, that we know a lot of times when you think short-term rental, vacation rental, you'd like automatically go to maybe like the beach or the mountains or ski town or lakes. We want to let you know that we put your zip code into Airbnb when this call's over, and you'll be surprised how many people are hosting in your neighborhood. So if you have long-term rentals that you could turn into short-term rentals, I just want to encourage everybody to open up their brains on that. It doesn't have to be in those traditional spots that you might be thinking of.
Just have a pulse on your regulations.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. So talk to me about that, because we were in, where the heck were we? We were in Denver not too long ago, and my in-laws just bought a house up in Estes Park, which is just north of Denver. And their housing development was like the last housing development that they would allow in the whole city for short-term rentals, and everything else was basically you have to wait till someone dies to get a permit.
Right.
Was I think the gist of it. So is that something that a lot of the cities are changing, or is it just in flux?
It's in flux.
And it's in flux everywhere. And even if you think, hey, I'm buying it in Orlando, they're never going to, put regulations on short-term rentals. That is not the case. So don't go to an area thinking you're safe there either. So they're always in flux. It's always changing. And, you could be in a city that allows it, but your neighborhood, your building, your HOA. So there's like levels to the regulations that you need to check on when you are purchasing that property. And that's why Sarah and I said at the beginning, we always, yes, run the numbers on short term, but we run them on midterm. So 30-day plus, and then long term stays. So we want you to do like 3 different cost analysis. So, that you could afford to have that home on all those 3 different versions.
So I really love that, because I feel like so much of what we spend time talking about with our clients is around contingency planning. So that if you found yourself in a different environment, you still have to figure out how to maximize your income. And so that is so absolutely consistent with the way we view the world, is that you've got not just 1, but 2 contingency plans built in. And that I think so many times when people are analyzing an investment, they spend time thinking about, the potential and the opportunity, as opposed to figuring out, if things change, how do I exit? What's my worst case scenario if I can't do this way anymore? So I love that you guys said that. It's not just, well, now I have to sell the property. It's, I've already baked in the numbers for the long-term and the midterm rentals too. I think that's
pre-mortem,
that's huge.
Well, so many people too, they think that short-term renting is going to save their bad investment. And it's not. Like, it's not a Band-Aid for a bad purchase either. So it's like, which I can't tell you how many times we get those emails like, hey, I bought this property and, it's not going to, we thought we could sell it and it's not selling for what we need to. So let's just turn it into Airbnb. It's like, well, the neighborhood you're in isn't conducive to travelers, especially people can check in like at 2:00 in the morning and like the house is next to you. Or, you know what I mean? Like, you just have to be very sensitive about that. Maybe your municipality doesn't allow it. There's so many factors that go into it. And just because it's a short-term rental doesn't mean you're going to make the kind of money, because what if you're like, well, yeah, and then someone's going to manage it. And you're like, okay, so that's 25% or more of your monthly revenue that's going to go to the manager. Plus, if things, so there's just so many things to take in consideration that it needs to be a thoughtful process.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. So to that end, with some of the discussion around property management, that sort of thing, people can, book through the websites you mentioned, Airbnb, VRBO, bookme.com. What do you think about having your own website where they can book directly with you? What are your thoughts on that?
We preach having your own direct booking site and not to build your business on someone else's land. It's that same, a lot of marketers talk about that when it comes to Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. Same thing with your rental. Yes, Airbnb became, helped give us accessibility in terms of who can participate in this industry. But, thank you very much, Brian Chesky. That's awesome. And now you are a tool in our tool belt, but we are going to be the CEOs of our own business. And we're going to, we want those repeat guests to book with us directly. And we want to have a brand. We want to have control over our business.
Because kind of circling back when we were talking about long-term investments,
right?
We want to encourage everyone. Also, you want to keep diligent, all of your numbers, because, and Sarah can give her exact example. We want you to not only be able to sell the property when you do sell it, but we want you to be able to sell a business. And so we talk about digital real estate alongside your physical real estate. So we really want you to have that digital real estate that you can package in and sell to the next owner. And Sarah, if you want to give them the example really quick of what you did with your first property.
I mean, it was exactly that. It was 2010 and we were scooping up a nice property out of the 2008 recession. And this was before Airbnb was cool. And we lived in New York City. And our Australian friend was like, you got to try this new app called Airbnb, and you can get travelers to come stay with you. And so we did. And I learned a lot, and I took a lot of my hospitality, restaurant, hotel working, and I made it all work, and we decorated it, and we had a system in place. And so one day we had an investor inquire about the property, and because they had seen it on Airbnb, and they said, what would it cost to buy this? And you better believe it wasn't just the value of the property, but our welcome book, our furniture, our furnishings, our linens, all of it, you can have all of it. Here you go. And here are the numbers.
It's turnkey at that point,
it's
right?
Turnkey. Right. Yes. And this is happening right now. It's hot right now, where these, not even just like the Casas of the world, but like the smaller, really large property management companies are coming to communities and buying contracts, from mom and pop operators, whether it's their own or if they manage for other people, which is a big thing in our industry of like, if you do it for yourself, you get this skill. And then your neighbor is like, hey, I can't do this myself anymore. Do you want to do it for me? And we call that co-hosting. And so now you will host for that person. that's a whole other episode, but yeah, this industry.
We're going to have you on back again.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so back to that, we want you to have your direct booking site because we want you are building your own hospitality business.
Yeah.
And so that's super important. And the thing is too, like you have worked so hard to build your network of friends, family, guests. Why not have them come back and book direct with you? So we believe that you don't have to start right off the bat, but we do want you to get that digital real estate, at least get your domain name. So you're ready to go.
It changes your profit margins pretty significantly when you do that too.
Exactly.
So what is your best advice or some creative ways that you can make your property stand out?
Yes.
So if you're in a competitive market, how do you get people to choose you and pay more over all your neighbors?
The one thing takes time, and because you need to have social proof or guest proof, I would say, but
social proof. There's that word again. We talk so much about that because that's what people are looking for.
Right.
And the more positively reviewed your property is, the more any of these online travel agencies like Airbnb and Vrbo are going to push your listing to the top, or even just Google, right? Like the more you get those reviews, if you're doing direct booking. And so people ask us all the time, like, was it getting saturated? And it's that 80-20 rule where, we are definitely like our operations, the top 20% of our, so I'm not worried about that as long as I am giving amazing experience. I'm always listening to guests and I'm always making tweaks and I'm always making sure that I'm providing great service. It's kind of a cliche response, but there are so many people, like we talked about earlier, they're just throwing things into a unit. They call them units. And, and then going to the beach and drinking margaritas. And then they're making their cleaners really run their business for them. Like, well, the cleaner gets in there, gets it right for the next guest. That's all I need to do. And it couldn't be farther from the truth. So I would just say getting great service and making sure you are striving to people please. If you're a people pleaser, this is the industry for you.
Oh, sweet.
Well, and somebody mentioned the amazing coffee bar. Is that like a big deal, right? Because I got to tell you, without my coffee in the morning, I'm not usually a very pleasant person.
I'm shocked by how many people don't make sure that however you take your coffee, you can make it. Right. Like
exactly.
Some people want a Keurig. Some people want to use, their little machine, right? The espresso machine. And some people just want really good, freshly ground coffee. And it's not the same.
So here's the deal. We let everybody know, number one, back to how to make your listing stand out too. You've got to remember when you're online, the only way people are booking you, they get to see pictures and then they get to see the reviews and what you say about it. So copywriting is really important. The photos, please spend the money. That is an investment that will pay huge dividends. But give the guests what they're spending the night for. Like they're spending the night. The bed is very important. You want to have good, comfy bed. Also in the morning, like we like to sometimes, compare ourselves to a hotel. What's kind of standard baseline in a hotel? We want to make sure that we're at least hitting on the same cylinders as a hotel. And like, that's the thing. They're going to have coffee, you're going to have shampoo and conditioner. There's like these basic things that you want to like baseline be there to make sure that people are booking your property.
Yeah.
So
they've got stale coffee in a bag. So, this is not a high bar.
It's not a high bar. But you can have so much fun with it. And maybe it's, you can offer all the things, but that sounds, some people sounds daunting. So maybe you are a cabin in the middle of the woods and you don't have Wi-Fi. And so you also don't do your coffee fast. So you don't offer Keurig. Instead, you offer a Chemex with that slow pour over. And it's a part of that brand that you're building. Or maybe you are an apartment in a high rise downtown and you only offer Keurig, but you offer to-go cups plus all the creamer so they can take their coffee with them as they rush to get to their meeting in the morning. Like, what kind of place do you have and how can all the things that you offer really cater to that ideal guest?
I like that. It's really putting yourself into the space where you're creating an avatar who's actually staying here. And then how do I make this the best experience for that person?
And even if you're like, oh, well, I'm, we're in Columbus, Ohio. So we have like the convention center, we have the Ohio State Buckeyes, we have people coming for business, we have people coming to the hospital. We understand that everybody can stay there, but choose that one person. And then when you dial what those amenities are for them, other people are going to be drawn into. So don't get
the riches are in the niches, like they say.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's like the third one.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of these good little one-liners. I love it. Okay. So I have probably one more question and then we'll wrap up, but we are definitely going to have you guys back on because I
Sure.
know, I mean, like, even as you guys are talking, I'm thinking of multiple people in my head that I'm going to forward this to as soon as
Yeah,
it
me
comes
too.
out, because I know they're going
My
to need
wife.
it. So if there was one piece of advice that you could give that you haven't talked about yet already, so maybe something that we should have asked that we didn't, what would each of you say to someone who was maybe opening their first door?
Nettie might be mad if I'm stealing her idea.
No, it's okay. I've got more.
Trust but verify. It really.
I swear to you. Okay. I have to interrupt you for 2 seconds because we literally recorded a podcast right before this one and you guys have repeated language that we used. And I know that you were not on the Zoom
We were
link.
not
It was a
listening.
separate Zoom link, but I
Right.
just love this because I feel like we are on the same wavelength.
Well, and that might lend to like, while this industry is like new and it's super, and if I want to say sexy on your show, it is like, everyone's like, oh, I want to have an Airbnb. I want to do this thing. But what they forget is just like the same tried and true business practices that you would do no matter what kind of business you're in. And the one thing people do, I mentioned it, I guess it's not a tip that maybe I didn't not mention on an interview with you, but the whole, like, just getting one of these things and hiring a cleaning company and not verifying their work. And I'm not saying babysit them or micromanage, but you have to verify what they're doing. But then another layer before the guest checks in, I mean, the cleaning team is cleaning. They're not checking for safety. They're not, they walk into a mountain. So who's doing the detail work before that guest arrives? So you can strive to get those 5 stars, so you can get up in the algorithm, so you can make more money. So trust but verify your handy person, your maintenance, trust but verify your real estate agent. Like, real estate agents, they love to help you, but are they well versed in the short-term rental world and market? Like, do they truly know what you need? So ask them, do you host yourself? Do you know anyone who's hosted before? How many people have you helped buy a short-term? I mean, so trust but verify all the different people that can help you if this is something you want to go towards.
And I'm going to say this, it's and very clear, but it's people before profits. This can be an extremely, like, it's why we do it. It's super profitable. And we guarantee when you put every guest first, listen, they've worked super hard to stay with you, however they earn their money, they worked really hard and they're choosing to spend it with you. And you need to take that really, really serious. And if you give them an amazing time, we call it elevated reciprocity. This is something we never knew would come out of hosting, is like, if someone's coming to celebrate a graduation or a wedding or their anniversary, like, you will monetarily get that reward, but there is this other part that you get to be a part of all of those experiences in the most amazing way. So it's really this great way to, add on to your net worth by just being able to participate in a lot of these moments that you get to be a part of with your guests that I was never anticipating happening. So I just want to encourage everybody that it is amazing. And if you put the people first, the profits are just going to flow in.
Well, and I love that because it's so focused on abundance. It's really about delivering this experience to people. And then you get all the benefit, both financially, but the gratitude side of things is there's no replacement for that. It makes it really easy to get up in the morning and to look at yourself in the mirror when you know, like, hey, this is going to be a great day because multiple people are going to tell me how I impacted their life in such a positive way. There is no substitute for the kind of joy and fulfillment that gives you. And the fact that you're getting paid to give that to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, what else is there to life? I mean, it's a wonderful situation.
You're not only getting paid like today, but you're also building long-term wealth, which is why we really love this industry. And
you never know. One thing, oh my gosh, Sarah and I just met this guy. We want to let you know, the other business that can come from this too. We were talking to a realtor last week and he had the month before sold $2 million in homes just because when his guest comes to stay, he's like, hey, if anybody looking for a home. So I want to let you know, like, the money doesn't just come from that property either. There can be a lot of other waves and ripples that come from the relationship that you can build with your guests by welcoming them into your home.
I think this has been really wonderful.
Yeah,
And I
this is
know that our
amazing.
guests are going to want to track you down, find
Yeah.
you, figure out what resources you have
Stalk
to
you.
offer.
Oh, find you. Right. All of that.
It's all right.
stuff.
We're here
Don't
for
go
it.
there. Don't go
Yeah.
there. Yeah. So where can they find you? And then do you have any particular programs that they could kind of look into to learn more about how they could, with the mindset that you guys have, which I just absolutely love, figure out how they can improve the experience that they're delivering for their end users?
Absolutely. So our free content is on anywhere where you get podcasts, and the podcast is called Thanks for Visiting. And so it's also streaming on YouTube as well if you're more of a visual learner or engager. But anywhere you find podcasts, we have content every week, and we pride ourselves on things that are actionable. And we bring hosts on to the show because, my goodness, we just interviewed a host today, and we don't think we know it all, but we think we know lots of things. And she was just dropping bombs, and we're just like, that's amazing. Like, so
Kind of like you guys did with us today.
yeah, like you learn from people in this industry, and they're just smart people.
And then also, so on Instagram, we're at thanks for visiting _. And then we do host a workshop normally every month. And if you go to thanksforvisiting.me/workshop, I'm sure you can put it in the show notes. We do an hour free workshop each month where we kind of go through our 3 big mistakes that we made in the beginning that we don't want other hosts to make. So sign up for that. It's completely free. If you can't make the exact time, we send out a replay. So we encourage you to take some time, dig into that.
Well, we encourage all our visitors to check you guys out. This has been such a fun conversation. If you're looking for me, you can find me at The Wealth Woman on Instagram, Facebook, or what's the other one? LinkedIn. And Eric, where can they find you?
And I'm Economics with Eric on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. So,
all right. Well, thank you guys so
Thank
much
you
for
guys so
joining
much.
us.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.